right. Welcome. It's Friday night. That means it's time for Friday Night Fun Time on Real News Live. I'm your host, Mike Barrett in Seattle, Washington. And I'm joined tonight, as I always am. I am drinking not an adult beverage tonight. I'm simply drinking water, trying to hydrate, making sure I don't get a kidney stone. I'm joined tonight, as I always am, to my left, my immediate stage left, the lovely, the generous, the intelligent, the super smart, the colossus of the computer world, Candace Whitelight, somewhere in Montana. Candace, how are you, and what are you drinking tonight?
Well, it's a good day, and it's been busy. There's been a ton of stuff that's going on, so me and Brooks will, I'm sure, have a lot to talk about if you don't have anything. But I'm drinking Mystic Mango, good old kombucha, and I just cracked a new bottle, so I'm happy.
Awesome. Yeah, we've had a few people in here already. I got to give them credit. Down to the kitty corner spot there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, my lower left. The amazing, the intelligent, the man who made us a little bit late tonight, the fantastic Dr. Brooks Agnew, somewhere in the Carolinas. Brooks, how are you? How was your day, and what are you drinking?
Oh, I had a long day, about 14 hours today, so I just got in, and I didn't get anything to drink, so I have nothing.
Oh, well, you're going to have to run out during a break or something while I tell a story and go, you can't run out while I tell a story because it's going to be really good. and get a beer. You need a Coors Light or a Bud Light, maybe. And then immediately below me, the guy who was somewhere east of California, looks a little like Vegas or Mars, or I don't know where the hell that is. Saginaw Beach. Where are you? TV's Blake Wally.
A fancy karaoke lounge here. And Neon, somewhere in Tennessee, we'll say.
Blake is actually trying out for The Masked Singer tonight. That's what he's doing. So as soon as his show is over, he's going to run out and head out to see The Masked Singer. So I have a story to tell you guys before we get started that you, Blake and Brooks, and by the way, what are you drinking? You're drinking wine again, right?
Yep, right. Cabernet, little Liberty Creek tonight.
Okay, excellent. I have a story to tell you guys. And I can say categorically that I can now prove the existence of God, or at least I can prove the existence of higher dimensional realms, angels, and higher beings. I can tell you that the story I'm about to tell you will prove that beyond any reasonable doubt. So I've lived here for a while in Washington State, not really my choice, but things have conspired to keep me here, and I'm here. So one of the things I've always thought is that, it would be fun to sort of get some money, get a big chunk of money and get out of here and, take care of all the family obligations and things I may or may not have that keep me here and go to someplace sunny and warm. So as part of that process, I'm involved in several interesting things that are going on. The financial reset, if it goes the way I hope it goes, I might stand to profit from that very handily. Some crypto stuff, might stand to profit from that rather handily. But it's never stopped me from doing something else, which is just playing the old lottery. You know what? Because somebody wins the lottery every couple weeks at the worst, So I've been doing that for a while. And I've been told by psychics that I know and love, Jennifer and a couple of others, that that's not the way you're going to make your money. You're not going to get rich from the lottery. It's not the way you're going to make your money. Okay, but still, it's fun. Isn't it fun to buy a ticket and sit back and think, oh, hey, there was a lottery drawing last night. I could be a millionaire. I'm going to go to the grocery store and stick my ticket in and see if I won, right? That's fun. It's fun to think about it. Ooh, if I had that much money, I could do this and this and this. I could move here. I could go there. So in the process of this, there's a local grocery store. It's a chain called Fred Meyer. And one day I was there and I was buying a lottery ticket and there was some old guy in front of me, nice old guy. And we started talking and he said, hey, he goes, now I went to play the middle machine of the three. He said, no, don't play that one. Play this one on the end. And I said, okay, why? And he goes, well, don't tell anybody. But last year I won $250,000 on this machine. And I'm like, God, that's really cool. And I do believe that luck flows places. It does flow to the same place over and over. And there are some studies that show this, but You can't disprove that, right? And it's also true that people who win a significant lottery prize, like for instance, they win, get 5 out of 6 numbers on the Powerball and get $700,000. Their chances of winning the grand prize jackpot over the next year go up astronomically. And there's nothing in mathematical equations that can equate for this, but they do know the phenomenon exists. So if you win a sizable prize, not $20, not $4, but say $1,000, you get 5 out of 6, keep playing that same machine, keep playing that same thing. There's a guy named Thomas Hollywood Henderson, a linebacker, former linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys in the 1970s. He's the guy who's famous for the quote of Terry Bradshaw of the Pittsburgh Steelers is so dumb he couldn't spell cat if you spotted him the C and the A. Funny guy, totally created the whole persona around the Super Bowl. Come to me on press day, I'll give you a quote. After he retired in the early 80s, he won a $6.5 million lottery. Did he keep playing? And he made pretty good money playing football, $700,000 or $800,000 a year. And he kept playing it. Less than 3 years later, he won it again. This time it was $10 million. So this shit does happen. Luck flows to people, luck flows to places, and it is inexplicable how it all works. It's something magical. Nobody understands it. So I thought, well, that's a good tip. I'm going to keep playing this machine. So I did. And nothing generally happened, And then about 3 years ago, Barkley, my brother's dog, Barkley, needed some vet work done, about $600-700. Yeah, I just didn't have it, at the time. So I'm like, shit, what am I going to do? Anyway, I'd been playing the lottery. I went and changed my tickets. Boom, 5 out of 6 on the lotto, which is the local Washington State lottery game. And I got $1,000 for 5 out of 6. And I'm like, God, this is so great. I got my $1,000. Thank you, universe, for listening to me. And I got the money I needed to pay for Barkley's vet bills in that moment. And that was great. Until I started thinking, well, holy crap, if they'd have given me 6 out of 6, I would have won $4.8 million. That's enough for me to retire to Vegas on, someplace like that, someplace nice where I can buy a nice house for $500,000, live the good life. I'm like, I kind of wish they would have done that. But anyway, I started working with Jen, and I started talking to her about, the manifestation process and her views on it. And then every psychic has slightly different views on it. And one of the things she said is, look, it's really important when you pray is to pray out loud, to vocalize things. So as dumb as that sounds, when I would buy my lottery tickets 2 or 3 times a week, I would go to the lotto machine, the favorite secret lucky machine, which, by the way, that guy won $250,000 and I won $1,000 off of it. I'm like, okay. So I would buy my tickets, and I started saying this little prayer, this out loud vocalization. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, Lord God above, please bless this ticket and fill it with money. Fill it with love and fill it with money. Amen. So I complete the whole thought process. Nothing really happened. And I thought, well, I'm not asking for the grand prize. I mean, they could fill it with money. The money could be $2. So I started saying, okay, dear Lord God above, Jesus Christ, please bless these tickets, this ticket or these tickets, and fill them with love and the grand prize jackpot money. Amen. To complete the thought. Now, I don't want to, obviously I don't want to seem crazy. I'm not going to say it out loud. I'm not going to say it like that. I'm going to go, blah, 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 blah. But I said it, vocalized, created the sound waves in the ether. Okay. So people couldn't hear me, but I would say it. And I started doing this 3 weeks ago. So Monday, I went down to the Fred Meyer, got my groceries, picked up my Dr. Pepper, got what I needed, checked my old lottery tickets. No, they didn't win. Went to that machine, got the money, bought a Powerball ticket, bought Lotto, which is the smaller prize, pick 5, which is a local thing. It's about 100,000. Powerball and Mega Millions. And I said my prayer over all of them. So Tuesday, I'm sitting around and Dave's got YouTube on and there's a video on about how, hey, the winning lottery ticket in last night's $765 million Powerball was sold in Washington State. And I'm like, well, shit, that never happens. That's really cool. It was sold we're here in Washington. Usually it's Ohio or Indiana or Schenectady, New York or New Jersey or someplace with really dense populations because so many people play it there. Millions and millions and millions of people play the Powerball lottery every 3 days, 3 times a week. And there are probably millions of lottery outlets around the United States that sell the lotto. So if somebody is the winner, it's not by accident. It's like they found your energy all the way through and picked you to be the winner. So on Tuesday, we're out. We take Barkley for a walk. And I'm like, Dave's like, I want to go home. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but let's just go to Fred Meyer. I want to just check my lottery ticket. So I go into the Fred Meyer and there's news crews coming out with microphones. And I'm like, oh, they're probably just doing a feature story on, on the fact that it was sold in Washington State, probably just getting some B-roll of the lottery machines and playing the game, right? And so I go walking up and I walk up to my machine. And there's a reporter and a camera woman watching me. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. I mean, I'm used to being on camera. I've done a lot of TV. I'm used to it. Did Fox and Friends with Brooks. That was amazing. So I look over my shoulder and I go, and they start really focusing on me as I start looking at my tickets. And I have the Powerball in my hand and I'm like, did the winning ticket get sold here? And she says, yeah, this store right here, that machine. And I'm like, holy shit, my heart's racing. So I stick my ticket in and it scans it. And I won. I won $4. So I now know 2 things. Well, 3 things. Praying and vocalizing what you want works to a certain extent. This proves that God exists because that's who I pray to is God and Jesus and the higher universe above and everybody else. That all works. So God exists. And the 3rd thing I know is that he fucking hates my guts. Because he fucked me out of 700. It ended up being 400 million, 200 million of which I would have given to my brother Dave. So let's just say $200 million. Now that's harsh language to use, but here's the thing I'm going to say about this. And Candace, I would really like to get your comments on this. Blake is the skeptic. Candace, I want to get your comments on this. It is beyond impossible that I am not the one who created this money that was sent to that place. Why it wasn't given to me, the person that asked for it, I don't know. Maybe there was some slight miniature flaw in the way I asked for it. I don't know. But I created it. I brought it to the 98092. And I'm really, really having a hard time today because that would have been enough money. Even 200 million after taxes and splitting it with Dave would be plenty for me to achieve pretty much every dream I have of doing documentaries, which includes super bright guys like Brooks and might be produced by people like Blake Wally and with, commentary from Candace Whitelight and doing, conferences and shows all over the country, all over the world. Plenty of money to do that. Fulfill all my dreams. And it's like they not only did it, but like they went out of look, here's the thing. If this wasn't aimed at me, it would have been some other Fred Meyer in Auburn. There's probably 8 of them. Or it would have been some other place. No, this was mine that I created that for some reason they decided to deny me. And please don't give me the spiritual bullshit of, oh, well, it wasn't meant for you. Yeah, it was. Because I'm the one who brought it there. So it shows me that we are very powerful, that you can create things like this, but for some reason, God hates my guts. So Candace, can you possibly explain? You can respond to this any way you want, but I'm really interested in what you have to say about this story. This story is 100% true. And no, nobody but me brought that $400 million into the 98092 except me with what I did. Because I used every technique that you're supposed to use. And somehow I ended up with $4 and somebody else ended up with 400 million. So, Candace, I'd like to get your feedback on this. I already got it from Jen, but I don't agree with her assessment of it. But and then I have another epilogue to this story that I think is important. But Candace, go ahead and please tell me if you can debunk my story in some way, shape, or form. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I think I have one statement that actually appeared on a Q drop, which is 28 January of 2020. It was 37.99, and it says, timing is everything. And I think that you understand that, Mike, that basically it's not a matter of if or anything else. It's a matter of when it is the correct thing to happen to you. It's very specific. And that is kind of what I think about everything. It's just like if you could look at what's going on right now, and we've been all praying like every day for stuff to be resolved. And my recent prayers are pretty widespread. They're like curing the evil that is out on this land and protecting the children. I don't ever pray for money because you know what? If I were to make a list, it would be on the bottom of my list in terms of things that are important to me. That all I have, and somebody said it in chat, is that you need enough money to get by. What you have to focus on is what you would do with that money. And that's really a far more important issue that I think is going to be in everybody's lap quite soon. And I'm sure Brooks can attest to this, that he has worked his ass off to create stuff for a very long time. And he has done it without a whole lot of, people coming to his door and saying, you're so great and I'm going to give you $1 million for just standing there, We do have to understand as humans, we have a much wider purpose. And, for me, every day I go through this in my mind, and I just want to say that you're worthy of it. You don't ever have a moment where you're not worthy of getting what you want, but I implore you to continue loving God and working for Him, because those are the ones that are going to be able to go into this new era and then be successful, not just living the high life, but being productive and, like you stated, having a group that you want to come forward and being able to take care of us. I have a good feeling about that I think that is going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen because you're the one that procures the money. I mean, if you can follow my thinking, there are some people that are very lucky, and there's others that, could wish for it all day long, and it just isn't meant to be. So it's just like your life, I mean, we don't choose when we die. So why should we choose when we get our bank accounts full, So that's my thought.
Okay. And maybe God picked someone more deserving. Well, Deborah, there isn't anybody more deserving. I'm the one who brought the money here. I'm the one who brought the money to the 98092. And I can guarantee you there's nobody in the 98092 who has more truth to tell the world through the things I would create, through the books and the documentaries and the films. There's no one in the 98092 who would be nicer to the little animals than I would be with that money. There's nobody who would buy an apartment building in California where some of my friends still live so that they would always have a roof over their head and a place to live and a job that could work for me in that building like I plan to do. No, there isn't anybody more deserving. I deserve as much as anybody else. And if that's the rule, if that's how God works, then please, before I block you and delete you forever, why does George Soros have so much money? Why do evil people like Al Gore and George Soros and Bill Gates, why do they have so much money? If money goes to only the good people or the people that deserve it, why do they have so much money? So you can't answer that. So that's not a good excuse.
Well,
And
I can answer that if you want an answer,
no, I want to
because
block this person first.
well, go ahead and make a statement about it, Mike, but don't include personalities, because the devil does a rock solid deal. And if you wanted really to just get money and fame, you would sign a deal with the devil, right? Because he's going to make sure that it happens instantly.
Maybe I should give him a call. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's your immortal soul that's on the line, so that's up to you. I always tell people, if they're willing to go to hell, I mean, hey, have at it. I mean, it's short. It's a short period of time that you'll have the pleasure before eternity sets in, and then not only does it become something that you'll try to negotiate your way out of, but it also becomes a horror show, like really instantly, to everything that you've put your hand on, because
that's not going to happen to me. And Linda, maybe someone needed more than Mike for hookers and blow, and he cried and cussed God to death. Well, if God wanted me to curse him, he did everything he could to make me do that. He went out of his way to make sure that he rubbed my nose in it. This is the way things work. So I'm just telling you, you can't trust the universe. You can't. It doesn't do things the right way. They do what they want. And the thing that gets me about this, by the way, Linda, the hookers and blow thing is a joke, by the way. It's always been a joke, but okay. The thing is that this magical shit works. And I wrote a book called The Choice, where I told everybody exactly how it works. And I use those techniques in creating this. But this is one of those things that you just got to say to yourself, wow, if the message was fuck off, Mike, it received. Okay. Message received. Now I did have another thing where I had a dream that something else was really close, which maybe some of the reset stuff we're looking at. But it's just kind of like, wow, why would you do, if you didn't want me to get it, then like I said, it would have been some other store in Washington State, or not even in Washington State. So, Brooks, I was just wondering what your thoughts on the manifestation of reality. And some people would say this means we're living in a simulation. What do you think?
Well, manifestation of reality works on resonance. Nobody steps up to the plate the first time and hits a home run. It takes getting in the zone. It takes, yeah. But I applaud you because you keep all your revenue channels open. Not everybody plays the lottery all the time. I was being interviewed for Air Force magazine because they had come and test drove my electric truck, and they were amazed at how much I had gotten done. I had a small plant. I had several trucks on the floor. They drove it. They loved it. I invented the electric pickup truck. I own the patent for the electric pickup truck. Yeah, just to let you know, I invented a whole industry, and it passed me by.
Yeah.
And they asked me, how are you raising your money? And I said, we're using the highest probability method for small business in America today for raising money. And they leaned forward and said, really? What is that? I said, we play the lottery. And I was dead serious, because that's the only money that's available. Now, I didn't come here to this earth to survive. I didn't come here to get by. I came here to do great things.
Yep.
And revenue like that, $200 million, would change the world in our hands. It would change the world. It would change awareness. It would change everything. We wouldn't blow it. We wouldn't use it for hookers and blow. We wouldn't buy jets. We wouldn't buy an island and take little kids to it. We would do great things with it. And if this is the way the universe, and I totally agree with you about Soros and Steyer and Bloomberg and all these fuckers who just get the money and then just fuck everybody all day long. That's all they think about is fucking people. And
fucking
they do
a hammer.
And they live to be 90 something years old too. And they just keep fucking people every day of their lives. So I once, several years ago in my life, gave one of those prayers, and I said, I'll tell you what I want you to do. Look away. Look someplace else. Go away. I'll do this myself. Okay? All you've done is keep me poor and keep me blocked my entire life. And I started to be successful the very next day.
Yep. Well, yeah, a few nice things have happened since, and like I said, I got a dream of just taking the lead in a race, and things are happening, which may still happen. But the other possibility, I guess, is that it wasn't God who did this. It was actually the other side who did this to try to discourage me, knock me down, and keep me off the path. But then isn't that a little bit grandiose? Oh, Mike Baer is so important that the documentaries he might make might change the world. When other people, and I'm not going to mention any names, Jay Weidner, think that they've made the greatest discovery in human history. I've got these alien mummies from Peru, and they're actually just mutilated human skeletons, mummies. I laugh at them. So I laugh at that notion. I do feel like I created this. I do feel like it was generated. And in some sense, it shows me my power. But it's like power is useless if you can't direct it to the right place.
That's right.
It's like a nuclear bomb.
Power is useless.
Used against Imperial Japan, it's a good thing.
You can't put gas in your car.
Detonated in I'm trying to think of a good place. Florida, Texas. It's not a good thing. TV's Blake Wally. Well, okay, but Brooks, do you agree with me that the possibility of that happening is so far beyond? It has to have something to do with me, right? I mean, I think it has.
Absolutely.
It has to.
Look how many lottery machines there are in the world. You drew that money to that spot.
Yeah, I know.
It was your consciousness that brought it there. For you not to reap the reward of that, because you would have given the glory where glory is due.
Sure.
I guarantee you the person that won that money isn't going to do anything with it. Well, I can just guarantee you.
Not as much as I would have done with it.
That's right.
For the world. Let's put it that way. But then and it goes back to what Candace said. And this is a deep philosophical discussion to have on the news show, but that's where we're going. It goes back to what Candace said, which is that maybe the world's not going to, doesn't need it right now. Maybe we're going to have so much that it doesn't need to be done right now. Maybe in 6 months, I'm going to have enough that I'll be doing everything I want to do anyway. But still, then that raises the question. The question I'm always going to have is, what was I supposed to think about this? Because it's not coming. I've talked to every spiritual friend I have, Candace now, Jen. I've talked to, I'm going to have a chat with Daniel Brinkley, who's been dead 6 times and talked to God on multiple occasions. I don't know. Blake, do you have any thoughts on this incredibly weird and ridiculous story that I just told you?
No, that's pretty amazing. And I agree with Brooks. You probably did manifest that. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's like, God having a sense of humor, whether it's, money is the root of all evil, or
no, the love of money is the root of all evil.
That's right.
Money.
The love of money is the root of all evil.
And by the way, for the person quoting Matthew 5:5, saying, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth," he didn't say, "Blessed are the poor." You could be wealthy and be meek.
Yeah. And yeah. That's true.
So
okay, sorry, Blake. So keep going. I didn't mean to.
Worries. Yeah, so maybe you, I don't know, cause some sort of rift in the space-time continuum, and I don't know, maybe travelers, maybe that set off a series of events, and they had to come back in time and say no. This is where it all started, was when Mike manifested the lottery and started, stirring up shit. And then they had to go back and
well, I mean, and somebody else said, well, maybe in a different timeline, it did get to you, but you went off and it set your life off in the wrong direction, and you did go do hookers and blow and lose it all or something. Maybe that's true. Maybe it needed to be delayed a week or a month before something good like that happened. But it's like wow, it shows that each of us has power of creation. I think, because I'm sure I created this shit. Anyway, go ahead.
Maybe you did. You created this shit. You went to Vegas. You blew it just for a night on hookers and blow, but then he had a massive heart attack. Then all the money got just tied up in limbo, and everybody had to go to court. It dragged out for years, and it didn't benefit anybody.
By the way, I have done all the cocaine I'm ever going to do in my life. So even after a med bed, I'm still gonna I'm not doing it. It's not one of those things that appeals to me anymore.
Well,
so I'm going to add one coda to this for you, Candace, because I didn't really intend to start with this. I don't know. I just started talking about it because I wanted to get this audience's and these panelists' opinions on it. There's a coda to this. The coda is that I spoke my prayer on Monday. The one I just told you. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, please fill these tickets or this ticket with love and the grand prize jackpot money. Amen. I did say that. In my head, Candace, I then thought, it was almost like a thought that came from somewhere else. Unless the RV is going to happen within the next month and I'm going to have plenty of money then. And I wonder if that didn't deflect it at the last second. What do you think, Candace? I thought it, I didn't say it.
The whole thing just drives me crazy because I spend literally no time thinking about money, except that, when I have bills to pay, I look at my balance and then I write a check and everything is good. So I happen to have a benefactor that is very special, and I put a lot of strength and faith into that particular way of life, where there are people out there that have access and that can do good and that they use it, but they don't want to be recognized. This is all, stuff that basically I shouldn't be telling you, but that it's an important thing to me because of my situation is that I spent all my money and all my energy and, it went to other people's pockets. And that was a failing on my part in terms of managing the money that I had access to over many years. And I've, literally gone through 3 different fortunes. I'm sure I can create one again.
Remind me not to marry you, okay? Just don't marry Candace.
Well, see, there you go. You're talking about money. You don't even consider in this aspect, which is, completely predictable, but all of the good things that I am, all the things that I can do that have nothing to do with money. And see, that to me is more of a focus than, trying to butt my heads. And this situation, I'm just writing a text right now onto the chat, that money is not real. It's controlled and it's manipulated. And the thing about these lotteries, I learned, I worked on the first lottery campaign for Washington State where they had the digits that danced outside. I don't know if you remember that one. Full-size costumes for all these people. And I worked with some great actors back then, and one of them, Christian Bale.
That's the lotto game. That's the game today that is now known as Lotto. Yeah,
that's right. It's the same one, and it was a campaign, an ad campaign, and I worked on the entire first year of programming for that. And we got a big kick out of it because we were paid well on film production and managed everything and helped the people get in and out of these costumes. But at the end of the day, the people running, the producers that were coming up with this idea that we're going to, have a lotto in Washington State and it's going to be huge. And it was one of the first states that really took advantage of these new laws that were passed, because before that point in time, it was illegal to do things like Ponzi schemes and what they call pyramid schemes and things that took people's money and didn't produce a product. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what the lottery is. So we were talking about it one day and I thought to ask, I said, well, how much of this percentage of this money that is paid into this is actually given out in prizes, and how does that all work? Well, the actuary tables that they use for the lottery basically describe something that they take a whole lot in. You can imagine how many people buy tickets,
Yeah.
and that they then apportion it out to all the the necessities that you have to have in order to sell tickets and to print them out, and all of the mechanism, and all of it is computerized. And it's funny because in the beginning they used to have a machine, and they would come on the nightly news, and it was a billiard machine that was had
ping pong
and
balls.
it ping pong balls. It would be sucked into a tube, and then
I remember
then
the
they
drum,
would.
yeah.
That's right. So there was an element of chance back then, but I got to tell you, there's no element of chance anymore.
Yeah,
and
people say that these big ones, especially when they get really big, that the deep state controls who gets that money.
Well, they can control, number one, the payout. They can control the amount. They can control where the other money is going to that's coming in. And that's where they are making a lot of profit because, and it was so silly because I remember the Washington State Legislature came out with a thing and said, well, we use that extra money for schools. And we all
Why do we have the best schools in the world?
Washington State?
Why don't we have the best schools in the world?
Why don't we? It doesn't have anything to do with money. I'll tell you that. So it's not.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a matter of like sitting down with it. And I just went through this yesterday and described how charities work, because there's a lot of people right now that are getting sucked into these, help Turkey out charities, right? And they've got them set up all over. All the con artists come out, and I have a short story. I worked on a series of programs that were in the day when we were doing infomercials, and this was about Save the Children. Okay, so they hired Alec Trebek to come up and be the spokesperson for this. Now, I got to meet him. I worked with him. I did his wardrobe. We worked on this for about a week, 5 days, working days. And we got into a lot of interesting conversations during that period of time. I got to tell you, he's a really smart guy. He made a lot of money on Jeopardy, and he was good at it. Okay, so he is now, he died last year. And but he told me in a very real way, because we're in the makeup chairs, he's letting loose with all of the stories. He said, I love to work on these jobs because they pay me really well. And I said, I won't ask, but, how much of the budget is allowed for doing these type of commercials and such? Well, they have enough money at the end of the day to pay for these. And it was not cheap to hire a whole film crew to bring in talent of that level. There was 20 people standing around that were all earning six-figure salaries, and they all had nice sports cars. And they said, Alex said to me, he said, if 10% goes to the actual charity that you pay in to save these children in South America, which is really where their focus was, I said, to him, 10%. And he said, yeah, that's on a good day.
Yeah.
And it took my breath away.
Candace, this is really important because it's legal to do this with a foundation. And Russell Wilson, the former Seahawks quarterback, who the dirty, sick left-wing media is really after, like sharks seeing blood in the water. They just did a hit piece on his foundation where they said only between 21 and 25% of the money collected by his foundation is actually going to the charity. And I'm like, now do the Clinton Foundation, which is about 3%. They do the absolute minimum. So it's like, these foundations are all money laundering schemes. And so Russell's foundation actually does quite a bit better than most foundations. God, I'd love to see Bono's Red Foundation get edited or get audited. I bet that would be another one of the below 10%. So,
that's part of the whole problem. Yeah, I got to tell you what's going on right now, and it has to do with the Super Bowl, because there is a group called PETA that has now decided that they're going to sponsor the Super Bowl, and they're going to have a whole bunch of beagles that they rescued from these puppy mills and from doing scientific experimentation. So they've got 4,000 of these puppies. And so they're going to bring a few of them, and they're going to do a beagle puppy Super Bowl this year. And I when somebody told me about that, they put it up on Telegram. I just hit the roof. I said, "You cannot believe how corrupt PETA is."
Yeah,
And
people eating tasty animals is what PETA stands for. I'm just kidding. And there's a puppy bowl on Animal Planet every year at the Super Bowl. So watch that too. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, they've taken it over this year. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Okay. And then they're also going to place these puppies all over the country. And I can tell you absolutely for sure, without any hesitation, that they're going to be puppies that are going to have physical and health problems, because these puppy mills don't care. They breed the mother to the daughter and the daughter to the uncle. And, they're all line bred. They're all stupid. And they have been used for medical research. And, it's not a good thing. But, for my purposes, I go back in the veterinary trade. And we used to see a lot of these animals that were sold to pet stores. And then they ended up with, every disease, every genetic problem that you would want to have. And it was always so sad. Somebody brings in a 6-month-old puppy and the vet has to tell them, well, this is like a genetic malformation and, it's going to cost you $8,000 to fix.
Well, again,
I mean, it's a Ponzi scheme.
Something I would have done with my $200 million is take care of animals like that. But that's not going to happen this week anyway. Candace, I don't mean to cut you off, but we got to go.
No, go ahead. I've said everything.
Dave has a kitty, Seabass, who he thinks was dumped because he was imperfect in some way from a breeder. And because he's so handsome and perfect and black, but there's probably some little teeny tiny flaw that makes him not a purebred. But he's the sweetest cat in the world. Blake, do you have any pets? Do you have a dog or a cat?
I do not. No, I used to have a pet ferret, but no more. But we'll see in time. I like dogs, cats, ferrets. Yeah.
You need a dog. You need a
dogs are a lot of work. I do love dogs, but
you need you do.
I like ferrets
have the horses, of course, which are really important. Okay, so we got to move on because we haven't done any news yet, and I just wanted to, I guess, tell the story because I wanted to get feedback from you guys, and I really, Brooks, I really am glad that you agree with me that this was not any kind of coincidence. That there's some meaning here. I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't heard an answer that I think fits. We'll see. Maybe I'll know in the next month or 6 months what the answer is. But there's some message in that. I just don't know what the hell it is at this time. I know it's not that I wouldn't do good things with it, because of course I would. And that's not how money is measured anyway. So, all right. Let's move on.
Good angel, bad angel thing where the good angel said, we'll bring that lottery money right in here. And the bad angel, oh yeah, well, let's make it go to him instead.
Well, remember, there was the thought that said, well, unless I'm going to have I'm going to have more money than this in a month. So who knows? I have to wait and see. The financial reset, there's a lot of money going to be created out of that. And Candace knows that. So a lot of money for the future of mankind. So we'll see what happens. It's the kind of thing where it's like sports, because we're on Super Bowl weekend. Okay, I'm just going to make this lesson as quick as I can. Super Bowl 40 was stolen from the Seahawks by the referees, by the NFL. They wanted the Pittsburgh Steelers to win. They made sure the Steelers won by using the referees to steal the Super Bowl. I could not get over that. And I still haven't completely let go of it, but I've about 90% let go of it. And the way I let go of it, Brooks, was that we won a Super Bowl in 2013. They let us win. They finally didn't stop us. Seattle had the best team. We went and crushed the Denver Broncos and finally won it. So that made it better. So, maybe there's that Super Bowl win coming, hopefully in less than 7 or 8 years in the future. All right. Today's other question. We're going to get into the news. I think the big news is Ukraine, Brooks. We'll get to that, though. I got a couple other things before that. Damar or not Damar? The question continues. Damar Hamlin, the football player who collapsed from the cardiac arrest he went into because of the jab. And there's been all this weirdness around him, including we looked at his arm, I think, last week, and the no tattoos. Well, the saga continues because 2 nights ago, on February 8th, Damar Hamlin made an appearance at an NFL Players Association event where he accepted an award and gave a public speech. And I'm gonna try to do a screen share here and show you guys some video from it. Let's go to entire screen. Let's go here. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to go full screen on that. You know what? I might have to go back. Hang on. I might have to go back and change things. I think I have to take the chat off. So hang on, guys. I'm going to take the chat overlay off, and we're going to go full screen. And I'm going to show you a video, and I want you to look at this video very closely. This is Damar Hamlin, Friday night, February 8th, in Arizona, the site of the Super Bowl, accepting an award. Let's watch and listen. And just to give you a tip, pay attention to this part of the screen right here. Right there, where his left hand is.
Thank the other guys who are nominated for the award as well, who did the work in their communities alongside of me as well. Giving back to my community has always been a big part of who I am. I'm thankful to my father, who's right here behind me. Growing up, just watching him do community days in our community, and I just always was waiting on my time when it came. One of my favorite quotes, "It's a blessing to be a blessing." With that being said, I plan to never take this position for granted and always have an urgent approach in making a difference in the community where I come from and also communities across the world. Thank you.
That was very nice. That was really nice, Damar. And there's some pictures floating around of him at this event or just after this event where he's holding up his award and shows his left hand. Well, Damar Hamlin made another appearance. He made an appearance last night at the NFL Honors, where two Seahawks got screwed out of Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year awards, but Geno Smith got Comeback Player of the Year award for, I guess, coming back from being mediocre the whole previous part of his life. I don't know what that's a comeback from, but anyway. So Damar made another appearance, and he was on the red carpet there in Arizona. Let's take a look at, again, my Twitter feed here, and take a look at Damar Hamlin. And here's the red carpet pictures. Here's Damar. Notice anything about his left hand, folks? Got a left hand over his right hand. Notice anything? There's a huge tattoo all over that hand that was not there the night before. And I don't have a super close-up of it. I didn't have time to find it before.
No, I can see that his hand is tattooed.
Massive tattoo. The kind of tattoo that, by the way, I'm going to remind you, you cannot get done in one day. That's a tattoo completely covering his hand with all sorts of intricate designs on it. That's a 2 or 3 or 4 session piece of artwork. And I know a little bit about tattoos, all right? So unless he got some sort of miracle tattoo from 5 different tattoo artists working on his hand at the same time in the last 24 hours, one of those 2 guys is not Damar Hamlin. Also, I bet you if I go back to his Instagram, I'm going to find other pictures of his left hand, and he will have that tattoo on there, which I'll attempt to look while you guys are all discussing this. But I want to go to you first, Blake. Wally, I have one question. Damar or not Damar? And which one do you think is not Damar, or are they both not Damar?
Well, after seeing that, I didn't know. So now I know what you were describing when you're saying paying attention, because I didn't see anything. I was waiting for it to disappear or something. But now that we see the tattooed hand, that brings all sorts of things into question. So I'm going to have to say that the one with the tattoo is him, the real Damar, I suppose. But I don't know, how do they pull that out? I mean, I guess they can do sorts of things. I don't know what to think. I didn't know he made public appearances, but they're going out of their way to sell this and to make sure everybody knows that everything's fine, but they keep making a mistake or they overlook a detail, and that might bite them in the ass again. So, wow, the cover-up continues, it looks like.
Okay, I am on his Instagram. and that's 23 weeks ago. But looking at his Instagram, and I don't have anything from super recently, he's got sleeve tattoos all over his arms, but he's got nothing on his hands, either one of them. What's that? This is in Kansas City. So that's, I don't know. 15, 16 weeks ago. But he doesn't have any tattoos on his hands.
Oh.
So, Brooks, what do you think they're trying to do with this? It's so obvious.
Yeah, I think that
one of them is not Damar Hamlin. So he made it.
Damar died on national television on Monday Night Football, and the debate is still open as to whether they brought him back or not. Why would $1 billion franchise try to fake people out into thinking Damar is alive, but he's going to be on injured reserve for the rest of his life? He's never going to play football again, but he's alive. He didn't die on our football field. They probably have a vested interest in that.
Yeah, like not getting sued. Candace, they're making it very obvious. They're putting it in our face. And I'm sorry, but there are people that have done better comparisons than I have on this. And it's like the Kamala Harris State of the Union neck.
Oh, was that weird or what?
Like
her face was totally static. Even her eyes were different shapes. And she had this massive looseness around her neck.
So what's going on, Candace? What the hell is going on with this?
I don't know. But there's more weirdness. There's more weirdness. I don't want time to run out because we've got two stories we have to talk about. The shooting down of the UFO over Alaska and the following through by the World Economic Forum that has made numerous threats against Turkey of a terrorist attack. And I played the video on my show Wednesday night of HARP being used to induce the shallow earthquakes in Turkey.
We'll get to that.
25,000 people are dead.
I promise we get to that next. And there's more.
That's important, yeah, because Juan talked about the HARP, and there just came a thing across today, Brooks, maybe you saw it, that is, I posted it in the comments because it's from a Romanian senator who basically just said they've been using HARP, and against Turkey, and that's how this whole thing started. So
wait a minute,
yeah,
just real quick. So, what do you think about this Damar Hamlin thing? Why are they making it so obvious that it's so easy to catch them in their deceptions? Those were two different people, and I don't give a shit what anybody says about whether Damar's alive or not alive. That's got to be two different guys, right?
Well, they're getting sloppy, and like I said before, they got the C and D team on right now because most of the makeup artists that used to handle this and all of their casting and the the effects and everything else, they're very expensive to get stuff from, and basically they just think we're not noticing, and that's they don't even bother to hide it anymore. I mean, I could go on with the amount of, that we see these doubles that are brought out. And when I started evaluating it back when they did, they killed Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and then they put a double in her place. I was all over that. Nobody cared. Nobody really cared. Looked at that. And so, and what was that, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I mean, it's insane. So somebody like Damar, it's just like, they're going to pay off the family. They're going to pay off the doctors. They're going to slowly, sort of just integrate him back into the sport, whatever, because there's just big money involved. And, you just have to realize that it's over and over again. It's a cover your ass, and that's all we're living right now.
Pfizer is one of the NFL's biggest sponsors right now. Brooks, here, can you guys see this? Here's Kamala's neck.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's clearly some sort of mask coming loose.
And the shape of her eyes is different and everything.
Yeah, it's gross. It's weird. It's freaky stuff. Blake, any thoughts on Kamala's neck or Damar's tattoos beyond what we already said, or is that?
No, that's interesting. I did see that. I don't know how to explain that either, but she was like relatively. Maybe I'm kind of piecing that. you guys seen that old video of Hitler at the Olympics when he's like
Yeah.
just tweaking out on meth or something?
It looks
Maybe
like
that
George
was-
Floyd. I guess this is what George Floyd was doing before he went outside the store and collapsed and died of fentanyl. Yeah. It's Sorry.
Maybe she was tweaking out or something, and then they had to bring in a double that would just sit there and be calm and just do the right thing at the right time and not cackle out of context.
Right, and there are people who said she didn't say a thing. She didn't say a thing, they're saying, during the whole time. Her mouth did not move. She just sat there like this.
Yeah, she didn't smile.
Yeah. Gross, weird. But Candace thinks they're just bringing out the B team. Okay, Candace Brooks, go with the Turkey earthquake. And there are people saying that the giant space vagina cloud from a couple weeks ago is right where this event took place. Is that true? I don't know if that's true.
I don't know, but I know what HAARP looks like. I did the documentary in 1997 on it, and I was asked to do it by Congresswoman Jean Manning because I wrote a paper because I invented that technology in 1983 to explore for oil and gas, and I caused an earthquake in Roseburg, Oregon.
Oops.
With my technology, and I made it. That's what I published the paper on, and why I was selected to be on that documentary. What I saw over Turkey out that guy's apartment window, and on the news, which was about 30 miles away, was a clear sky, no heavy clouds, no lightning storms, but the telltale lightning and sky changing colors, and then the earthquake hits. And it kills 25,000 people. And this was a shallow quake. This thing was only like maybe 2 miles deep. And that's the kind of quake that does massive amounts of damage.
Right.
And it followed about 3 weeks of constant threats against Erdogan by the World Economic Forum. If you don't stop trying to broker peace in Ukraine, you're going to be hit with a terrorist attack.
And didn't he
they made
just
threats against him?
Didn't he just the day before say to, I forget what was it, Romania? He said, "Don't join NATO." And then they hit him the next day.
Right.
Okay. How do we find Brooks's show? We'll go to brooksagnew.blog, and it's right there. He has
it's right there. You can go to Rumble. It's Sunday night's Rumble. It's the last one up. You can watch it about halfway. Well, maybe about 30 minutes into it. I show the video, and I stop it right before it happens. I say, "Now watch the sky before the quake hits. Watch the sky."
Okay. Candace, you had other thoughts too, right? Excuse me.
Well, I'm just in awe that Brooks was actually there. I mean, I can't top that one, but it is the case where there is a lot of manipulation. One talked about the one that was in Japan that basically set off. Yeah, that was a controlled, and it was due to explosives that had been put down in the at the fault line, which is they did the same thing on this one. The fault runs right up, and you can see where all the earthquakes have occurred, and it's really pretty stunning that a lot of them are at exactly 10 kilometers in depth, which is another thing that is of significance, I think, overall, is that there could be some of these elements that, yes, they were going after Erdogan, and it was the matter that they have warred over this land ever since the Ottoman Empire came down. And there must be something there, you know. I mean, I'm always suspicious, and I always have to do several days of research before I'm really, have that in my mind. That is it actually one thing or the other. But, we have had control over the HAARP technology, for a very long time. So my question is, and maybe you can answer this, is where did this come from? I mean, we know where
there are
HAARP is.
27 operating HAARPs now, and some of them are even mobile. They can set up ships, and they can direct the HAARP wherever they want to do it. Now, it's got several purposes. For me, it was used to explore for oil and gas, but it can also be used to induce earthquakes. It can also be used to steer the jet stream and the atmospheric river, and thus control the weather. And we have seen areas like Puerto Rico get hit with 3 hurricanes in a 2-month period. That's never happened in history.
Right after an eclipse crosses the 19.5 degree latitude, which all has to do with hyperdimensional physics, which you can read about in this book. And don't forget, in 2017, Kim was making a bunch of noises, Blake, to Trump. And what happened to Kim and all of his nuclear scientists? They were all deep underground in a military bunker. And there was an earthquake in that bunker that killed 378 of his best scientists. And all of a sudden, Kim wanted to talk peace after that, didn't he?
It's a good way to force your opponent to sit at the negotiation table. Yeah.
I call it I call them the weirding modules, the sound weapons from the Dune movies.
Yeah, the weirding module, right?
Weirding module. That's, please no more use the weirding module on me, Mr. Trump. Anyway, go ahead. Blake, go ahead.
No, that's strange. I do believe that there are some, there's weather modification weapons. They certainly are probably capable of doing these things. I don't know what to think of that. That was very strange. It seemed like they're sending a message, with that crazy cloud. And a few weeks later, a catastrophic earthquake. I have also seen some people that were predicting this could happen in that region. There's kind of a guy that went viral, some kind of scientist. I don't know if he's from Norway or something. I could probably
Dutch Sinise it is, like Gary Sinise, but Dutch and Sense or Dutch Sinise or something like that.
Frank Hogerbeats or something. Frank Hogerbeats.
He's using Jim Birkeland's old predictive technologies about full moons and things like that. And which are 80% accurate, So okay, so pretty weird stuff, and I think a vulnerable area of Turkey. And isn't it coincidental that this, like you say, Brooks, happened right when tons of pressure was being put on Turkey to not create any peace in Ukraine? Well, speaking of peace in Ukraine, a couple of other things have happened that I think are pretty interesting, which is that it's now coming out that the Nord Stream pipeline, was in fact blown up by the USA. I don't really like to spend a lot of time on Fox News, but let's listen to Tucker on this one, because this is an interesting report from the other night.
So before the war in Ukraine...
Oops, we lost the sound.
Yep, there's no sound, Mike.
We had the sound and it went away. Now we lost Mike.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Okay.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not.
State Department, the number 2 of the State Department, and Joe Biden blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. Watch.
I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
But how will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do that.
So then the pipelines actually blew up. These are the pipelines that bring natural gas from Eastern Europe to Western Europe to keep the European economy going. And they exploded, causing the single largest human-caused environmental disaster in all of history. And again, setting Europe on the road to actual poverty. So it was an unpopular event, and Joe Biden denied any responsibility. In fact, he blamed Russia. Joe Biden and his whole administration told us that somehow Russia, for reasons they never make clear, just because they're evil, had sabotaged their own energy pipeline. Watch this.
It was a deliberate act of sabotage, and now the Russians are pumping out disinformation and lies.
So that was in September, and it was obvious from the very first day, well, that's not true. It's not that Vladimir Putin is too good a person to blow up Nord Stream, but why would he? It only hurts him. And by the way, it really hurts Western Europe. But a lot of media outlets repeated that lie dutifully. That's what they do, and attacked us as Putin stooges for having questions about it. Well, we know a lot more now. There have been a number of official investigations of what happened, and not one has found any evidence of Russian involvement. And now we have the actual answer to what happened. Oh, the Biden administration did it. For real. Investigative reporter Seymour Hersh, who's been around for more than 50 years, just wrote a piece on Substack that includes this, quote, last June, the Navy divers, U.S. Navy divers, operating under the cover of a widely publicized midsummer NATO exercise known as Baltops 22, planted remotely triggered explosives that 3 months later destroyed 3 of the 4 Nord Stream pipelines, according to a source with direct knowledge of the operational planning. Now, this piece continues. It's probably the most comprehensive news story you will read this year. Seymour Hersh on Substack, you should read it. And it recounts in detail meetings with the National Security Advisor at the White House, where this was planned, exactly what explosives were used, how they were triggered, by what aircraft, on what day. So many details in here that it is not possible that it's not true. It is true. And in fact, no one at a high level in the U.S. government is denying it with any specificity and said the White House is just dismissing it as utterly false, and no reporters are following up on this. So before the war in Ukraine even began.
Okay, so then yesterday, but we're about a year out from the invasion. The Ruskies sent a drone to blow up a bridge between Romania and Ukraine.
Right.
Let's watch it again.
No visual.
Oh, I like that. 1928, 19.5 degrees. Okay. So again, guys, I'm sorry. Could you see that video? I don't think
No.
No. Shoot. Let me bring it again. Let me do it again because it is important to watch. Okay. Let's go over and watch it again.
Это в реальном времени, да? Да. Это беспилотник. Вот что шарахнет. Второй был такой же? Нет, один. Вот он, видите, с той стороны. Давай мне камеру дать шар, что там сейчас происходит. Да. Вот он идет. Это в реальном времени, да? Да. Это беспилотник. Вот что шарахнет.
Kaboom.
Второй был такой же? Нет, один.
Okay. So, gentlemen, my question for you is, are these not both acts of war? Are we not already in a war, Brooks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely believe that. Of course, it's a good thing that the Russians built that bridge the way that they did, because it did very little damage. They had it up and running again in a couple of hours or a couple of days. It's not fully done yet, but they have traffic and the train is able to go back and forth. And that little boat drone that they sent in there, that surface explosive, is not enough to take a bridge like that out.
So what do you think it was? Was it just a demonstration of this is what we can do if you don't stop, or what? What was it?
Well, I think it was a demonstration of how desperate they are, because they didn't get the job done. And it's everything that's happened on the Ukraine side has been too little too late. And it has been designed to do nothing but launder money and protect the money laundering and human trafficking operations in Ukraine for as long as possible. But it's almost over.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost over. Blake, I mean, doesn't this already feel like there's a war going on? I mean, if we're blowing up their pipelines and they're blowing up the bridges or trying to blow up the bridges, isn't that the kind of stuff that precipitates war? So is there really a war going on? It's just quiet. It's kind of a quiet World War III.
Yeah, it's all by proxy now. Yeah, the modern, American people aren't going to support something like that. So it's a terrible thing. A big major act of sabotage is an environmental catastrophe, and all of Western Europe should be pissed right now at what the United States did to try to get sympathy or to attack their opponent. And yeah, they're blowing up the pipeline and then trying to say, oh, they did it. It wasn't us. So then everybody thinks, oh yeah, it's Russia did it, Putin bad. Now we got to do something. But it didn't work. It blew up in their face now. And
Yeah.
people need to stop giving money to this cause because it's not working.
Well,
And they just
worse
lost
than
the war.
that, it's not just the U.S. not giving money; it's the Russian people getting pissed. There have been 3 events actually. One was when they had Russian prisoners, and they filmed it on Facebook, and they shot the prisoners who were bound. They had their hands tied behind their backs, and they shot them on film. That pissed the Russian people off big time, big time. The second one, well, I recall recently, they filmed their own drone dropping cyanide gas on Russian troops in a river. They filmed it and put it out. That pissed the Russian people off to no end.
Hmm.
And so now that's why you see when you go to Russia, you see Z everywhere. All the billboards on people's backpacks, on their shoes. The Russian people support this war. Like 77% of the Russian people support this war. And that's why tonight, there are about 500,000 Russian troops ready for a major offensive to go in and finish Ukraine.
And that's the rumor that they're going to do that. So is that, from what you hear, true that they're going to finish this crap off finally a year later?
Well, they have pretty much everything they want except for the most southern state. The other 2 states are filled with Russians. They're living a peaceful life. Everything's fine there.
Well, don't they need a security boundary, a neutral zone around those areas too?
Well, yeah, the neutral zone's called 20 below zero. It's cold. But the southern states are not. They're just at about 0 degrees right now, or just below freezing, and they're still in play. But the Russians and of course the Ukrainians have been making overtures, and NATO's been making overtures about going after Crimea. Now that is absolutely off limits. That is a red line, a big time red line, because the people in Crimea, they love Russia. They go back and forth across that bridge. They trade freely with them. They voted to be annexed to them in 2014. They've led a peaceful life for the last 7 years. They haven't gotten shelled or anything. And it was Putin that freed up their river because the Nazis had dammed up their river, shut off their drinking water.
Yep.
And Putin went in and freed all that up. So now it's just a battle for Kherson, and Soledar is in Russian hands now. And like I said, these 500,000 troops too, these are highly trained, highly armed, and it could happen in the next hour. They could go in there. That's how soon it could be. Well, they're not going to put up with this.
There are people saying there's a momentous event about to take place in the next 48 to 72 hours, and everybody's trying to guess what it is. And that's one of the possibilities, which is that the Russians go in and finish off NATO in the Ukraine. So I don't know. Candace, any thoughts on any of this?
Well, I just want to make sure I understand how everybody is putting this together, because the proof that Monkey Works provided this morning is pretty much part and parcel to what it showed in terms of the aircraft that were in the area when the actual pipeline exploded, like the footage that you had. And what we had, and it was U.S., is a P-8 over the area, and they basically came down through Iceland, where they stopped on a fuel stop, came in. There was an R-135 that refueled them for an hour over the continent, and then they basically came back over and were right in that area at exactly the same time that the pipeline went down. Now, what that does is it tells me that it is a part of the military that is still under the control of the deep state, because I don't ascribe anything to Biden. He's a dumbass, and he's a fool, and he's fabricated. So, so somebody is working behind the scenes to commandeer some of our aircraft, and that is what really concerned me, because of course, this scenario has to do with what's going on in the Ukraine, but the big deal with the Ukraine has to be looked at as the bioweapons labs. And this is really what this last week has been all about in terms of uncovering, and this is something I worked on, which was a organization that's in Minnesota that basically has been receiving money from the DOD in terms of research that they've been doing, and this company happens to be Amway, and they were creating several different vitamins, air quotes, that had to do with a simulation or a mimic of the actual HCQ and ivermectin. And they held it to themselves. They held it in their, with their works, their people that were signed up for Amway. And they were given $1 million to do this research, and it went back to the Ukraine. So, we have now, dead to rights, legal, admissible in a court of law, that it's actually the United States that has been, not only from the Hunter's laptop to everything that's gone on with Joe and, the money that's been, changing hands, but we now have, information, and this is gushing out with the, the House committee that was convened yesterday, and the testimony that is about what it is that the three-letter agencies have been doing behind our back, and the social media and the censorship. So, we've got it from every angle. This is not just a one-issue item. And the other thing about this is that we talk about the Nazis, and the Nazis happen to be very important to this, but it is really that we go back historically and we identify the Khazarians. And the Khazarians have been the ones in that entire region that have been the thorn in our side, that they're fake Jews, and that they have become associated, or they've been taking this product that they've received from the biolabs, which include a substance that really is creating men that have superhuman abilities. And this is where the Russians, they went into the bioweapons labs in those regions, and they were, cleaning house, but they were meeting with these adversaries that are part of the Ukrainian army that were superhuman. And that's who was killing them off and who was capable of doing this kind of, really ugly shit to the Russians. So here we've got a dynamic that involves, things that are vastly out of the realm of anybody's minds in terms of what they can wrap their heads around.
That's the thing, is I'm trying to focus it. Then we had, now the military is claiming they shot down another vehicle, another balloon, something over Alaska or in territorial waters off Alaska. Yeah. Who thinks that was Chinese? Not me. Who thinks that's another fucking setup? Not me. They tried to claim there were 3 balloons that came over when Trump was president, and Trump's like, "Oh, really?" And everybody in his administration is like, "No, there weren't. There were none." What, Blake? I mean, what do you think all this balloon madness is? And I mean, how? I just see this thing escalating.
Yeah, it's been a bizarre, strange set of circumstances. It certainly would never have done it under Trump, because Trump would retaliate instantly and be very heavy-handed. China wouldn't want to take that risk to piss him off, but they could walk all over Biden. I don't know if it's for spying or what, if there's some other motive at play. I'm not really quite sure what they shot over Alaska today. That's a new story. I don't know if Brooks was alluding that might be a UFO of some sort. It's certainly, another identified flying object. I don't know if it was from China or what, but it seems like they're testing us. They're poking us a little to see how we'll react. And I don't know why they used the $400,000 Sidewinder to shoot this thing down when it finally hit the Atlantic. They could.
It's a couple million. Yeah, Sidewinders are pricier than that. Yeah, it's a couple million.
Yeah, so, and it doesn't seem like it did damage to the equipment when they could have gotten it all. I don't know what is they're thinking.
I don't really think we had a warhead in it, to be honest with you.
Well, they have recovered some of the mechanism of it, and guess what? It's made in the USA. It's made in the West.
Yeah. So
that was the other part. So it could have
So
been
I
one of
call it
ours.
a UFO because it's unidentified, and they called it an object, and it was the size of a small car at 40,000 feet.
Yeah,
That
it's an
doesn't
unidentified
sound like a
flying
balloon to me. That sounds like a drone or a droid, some kind
Yeah.
of droid or something. They shot it down at 40,000 feet, which that's air traffic lanes. That's, jets fly, commercial jets fly
Yeah.
at that altitude.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
but and this thing about Trump, balloons coming over during Trump. Well, we didn't tell him. We didn't tell him because we thought he would overreact. Oh, really? So
That's treason, by the way. Thank you. Yeah.
so
thank you.
now you're going to tell us that those drones came over. That's two acts of treason. One is keeping it from Trump, and the other is divulging this top secret operation.
Right.
Now,
You're right.
just to cover up Joe Biden.
Right. Just like they found classified documents in Mike Pence's garage. Yeah, sure they did. Sure they did. Yeah, because this happens all the time. It's completely normal for presidents and vice presidents to have classified documents relating to intelligence operations and stuff like that.
Well, the most important thing is that this congressional committee has asked for the documents. What was the nature of the documents that were in the Penn Biden Center? What was the nature of the documents in Joe Biden's garage? Well, we're not going to tell you. Oh, really? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to subpoena those documents, and we're going to send the sergeant at arms over there to serve it. And if you don't give him the documents, we're going to start arresting people starting at the front door. And then we're going to cut off all your funding until you give us the documents.
That's what needs to happen, but I don't think Congress can do that much about it. And it's exactly what needs to happen. Okay, guys, let's get out of this issue on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being absolute, full out, doomsday nuclear cobalt coated bomb, hydrogen bomb exchange. And 1 being, just going to sit around and drink beer and chase alligators. How close are we to World War III right now? 1 to 10. Candace, how close do you think we are to actually being in something that might resemble World War III? World War III, by the way, is overrated.
I think there's a whole lot going behind the scenes that we don't know about, and I'd say that we're really at the very low possibility, and I'm going to stick with that. That's what I said last time, but it's just not. It's not going to happen because we are being protected by what I believe are off-worlders that just won't allow it. I think that is a given, and I do also think that Trump is still in control, and we're just making this bad enough so everybody starts to understand what we're up against. We are playing for all the cards right now, all the chips on the table. This is Casino Royale, and if we don't win this time, we might as well just sort of lay down, because it's not going to be a fun world to live in if we allow them, which are very few. This is very few. They're losing their people really quickly. So if what we're fighting is infiltrators into our own country, which is really infiltration, not invasion, and it comes down to cyber war. And that's where I've been, very clear that this is what's happening behind the scenes. We're taking control of the networks. And as soon as that happens, boom, it's over. So that's my prediction, too.
So you think a 3, 2, 1, 0 not going to happen?
A 2.
2.
2.
Okay.
I mean, very low.
Yeah, okay. I hear you. Dr. Brooks Agnew, how close do you think we are to an actual World War III scenario?
Well, I think it's about an 8.5. And here's why I say that, because the Russians are all in, and they're going to do it conventionally. Like I said, there's 500,000 troops on the border getting ready to go in and clean this up. Now, you're not going to do that if you're going to use nuclear weapons. But the reason I say it's 8.5 is because somebody is going to blow off a nuke to try to stop them. Now, here's the thing. The U.S. has stepped up and said, okay, well, we're in a war with Russia. Germany has openly admitted now we're in a war with Russia. Well, be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I don't think we can hit back if we get hit. If we get hit, we'll be too busy cleaning up our own messes and keeping our own people from being injured by having no electricity. We don't need that. We need this guy out of the White House tomorrow, or he is going to kill everybody.
Okay. TV's Blake. So that makes you 8.5. TV's Blake Wally. What do you think on a scale of 1 to 10? How close are we to an actual World War III?
I'm gonna say a 6. I think we're definitely kind of in one, so to speak, sort of like culturally, financially, I don't know, cybernetically, if that's a word, but not quite militarily. Even though they're trying to get us drummed up. They wanted us to believe the Nord Stream thing, Putin bad, and then get everybody rah, do something. But if they can't get that going, maybe they're going to start something up with China. There's just so many problems here domestically. I think that's the way that they, have saved themselves in the past. When everything's failing in the economy, they distract by taking us to some kind of a war. And, they could be in a lot of trouble, too, if people start getting upset at the current administration, and then they can give themselves more power and control. They would definitely do it out of a desperate maneuver. And, I just don't think they care anymore. So they're just like reckless psychopaths that will do anything desperate just to save themselves. So I'll say 6.
6. I'm going to go with a 7. And the reason I say 7 is because we have been told that there will be World War III, but it will only be on your screens. In other words, there will appear to be a World War III, but it won't really be happening. And you should react to what's going on around you. Like, it will happen to a certain extent, but we won't see it or feel it over here because it's not going to happen to us. And that's, I think, the kind of thing I've got to go with. I do think we are in. There have been acts of war committed against Russia by the false government of the United States. And I think the only thing that's kept it from escalating into a true all-out war is the fact that I believe Putin knows that Trump is really the president.
Sure.
And that this is a game that has to be played. And we really shouldn't talk about this because we don't want it to get out that Trump has never really left office and this is all fake. And, there's a lot of things, Candace and Blake and Brooks, there's a lot of things that people are ready for. I think they're ready for a better financial system.
Sure.
I think they're ready for an end to war. I think they're ready for a lot of truths to be exposed about corruption. But corruption is one thing. Hollywood, government, axis of pedophilia is something even deeper. Aliens goes even deeper than that. And those things, I think, are many years down the road before we hear about those. So I feel like there's only so much that they can take at this point. And I think the next thing that's going to be up is the World War III scenario to try to have an excuse to simply do what we all know needs to be done, which is to get Biden the fuck out of the White House. So, and
it has to be more than that. It has to be more than that because it's not just Biden. Biden's the puppet. We need the guy that's behind that teleprompter.
Yep.
We need that. Because I will add this, the global syndicate has done this to countless worlds for billions of years. They break the society into 3 classes: working poor, soldier class, and political class. That's it. Right now we have a middle class, and the middle class is very strong, and it can get stronger. But that's why they're under attack, because when the middle class is strong, the syndicate cannot control the world. They can only control the world when there's the working poor, the soldier class, and the political class. And if you want to know what the soldier class is, go down to the DMV. You'll meet one.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything else before we go on to the entertainment portion of the show on Friday night? Anybody have anything they really want to talk about? Blake? Brooks? Candace?
No,
Candace,
not at all.
The answer is always AI with Candace.
I don't want to talk about the State of the Union show. That was ridiculous.
No, it was a joke. It was weird. It was. It's all gone. All right, that's going to wrap it up then. Okay, we're going to move on tonight to tonight's top 5, which we've changed the format a little bit of. Brooks, Blake, did you get the Brooks, Blake, which was I mean, Brooks, did you get the top 5 for tonight?
No.
Well, pre-warning, next week I want to do your top 5 YouTube channels or channels. And I want you to think about them in advance so I can have them all primed up and ready. Well, it doesn't have to be a YouTube channel, but YouTube is going to be most of them. Your favorite ones, your go-tos on Rumble or YouTube or whatever for anything. But tonight's top 5, Candace, did you get the note on tonight's top 5?
Yeah, something about our best and worst experiences.
We can also do. Somebody did a thing with concerts, and it was best concert, worst concert, that kind of thing. Was really fun. Posted that on Facebook. We'll put that down the line. But tonight it is overrated or underrated. And what I'm asking you to do here is come up with 5 things. They can be anything. They can be sports players. It can be historical figures. It can be events that took place. It can be anything you want that you think is either overrated or underrated. And we want to hear why. Why is something overrated and underrated? Teeth are overrated. Teeth are overrated. If you tried baby food, it's not that bad. Something like that. That's an example. All right. So if I assume the rest of you are not ready for this, so I'm going to start. Okay, I'm going to start. All right. Overrated. I'm going to go. Most of mine are going to be sports, but I'm going to go with overrated sports figures. I'm going to start with LeBron James. Okay. LeBron James. People are calling this week LeBron James the GOAT. Okay. LeBron James is not the fucking GOAT. LeBron James is a pretty good basketball player. He's also a complete leftist dickwad who gets paid by China, and he's full of shit. But then the thing is, people are also saying, "Oh, Michael Jordan's the GOAT." Well, okay, I got news for you. Michael Jordan's not the GOAT either. He's not the best basketball player of all time. Let's talk about basketball players. All right, Michael Jordan is 3rd. LeBron is in the top 25 somewhere. I watched LeBron James play back when I kind of watched basketball. I kind of gave up on the NBA in about 2002 because it got political, because it got involved with China, and because nobody could hit a fucking 16-foot jump shot anymore. Now they changed the rules, so you can't guard anybody, you can't touch anybody, you can't hand check anybody. They have 3 referees who call a foul every 2 seconds. You can't touch anybody anymore. There's no defense. The reason they had to do that, guys, is because the scores in the NBA finals were getting down to like 65 to 63. When the NBA used to score 120 points every night. Because guess what? In the 70s and 80s and 90s, guys could shoot. Guys had basic basketball skills. Basketball is the only sport where the quality of play has declined in the last 25 years. It's only 2 things. It's 3-pointers, because you're wide open and nobody can touch you, and it's dunks on fast breaks. And that's it. Nobody can do anything in the middle anymore. Nobody can dribble. Nobody can shoot the 15-foot jump shot. Nobody can do the turnaround. None of that. So if you put LeBron James in the 1980s and 90s NBA, Dennis Rodman would have this fuckface crying his eyes out by halftime because he'd be all over him. He wouldn't be able to do a goddamn thing. And although he's a good player for this era, he would have been an occasional all-star in the 1980s and 90s. He would not have been an all-time great. Not even close. Michael Jordan, by the way, is not either. He's totally overrated too. He's not the best basketball player, not even close. Bird and Magic were both better than him. It's Magic, Larry, Michael. Michael Jordan was in the NBA for 8 years before he won a title. You know who was on top of the NBA for those 8 years, who won pretty much every title? Either Magic or Larry. You know why? Because they were both better than Jordan. And I believe me, I saw all 3 of them play with my eyes, my own eyes. Magic Johnson could do things that were supernatural on a basketball court.
He could.
I remember one time they were playing the Sonics, and he got a rebound off a shot that was missing. He starts dribbling up the court. And Nate McMillan, one of the best defensive players of his era for the Sonics, is all over him. He's grabbing him. And Magic is doing this. He's dribbling, and he's looking over his shoulder. And while he's got his head turned this way, he passes the ball with his right hand about 40 feet up the court to a running big white lug named Mike Schreck, who nobody saw except Magic Johnson for a dunk, wide open dunk. And it's like, what happened was impossible. The only person in the entire arena full of 15,000 people that could see that was Magic Johnson. He fooled everybody. And I have never seen anything like that. Larry Bird could you gave him that much space, and the ball was shot, and it was going in, and it was incredible. Michael is a great player, great athlete, not as good a basketball player. One last example, and I know I'm going way too long with this because this is my favorite segment. When Magic Johnson was a rookie, his first year, he won the first game they ever played, last second shot. They were in the NBA Finals, the 1980 Lakers, who are one of the greatest teams I've ever seen. They were playing the Philadelphia 76ers. They had Daryl Dawkins, who's a 7-footer, and they had Caldwell Jones, who was a 7-footer. They were both all-stars, both really good players. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the fourth best player of all time, although I hate him and his politics too, had migraine problems. He had a migraine. He couldn't play. Game 6, Lakers are up 3-2 in the series. Game 6 in Philadelphia. So you know what the coach did? Paul West said, he goes to Magic and he says, you have to play center. You're 6 feet. He's 6'9". You got to play center. And Magic says, okay. He's a rookie. So you know what he does? He goes out and he scores 42 points. He has 29 rebounds, playing against two guys that are the two of the most big physical players in NBA history, who were 6 inches taller than him. And he has 11 assists and wins the game single-handedly for the Lakers. Michael Jordan could not have done that. Larry Bird could not have done that. Only Magic Johnson could have done that. And that was his first year. And he did miracles and magic and all that stuff. And I don't know his personal life. We may find a lot of bad things about him later. But my first overrated, underrated is LeBron. Actually, LeBron and Michael together. So that'll be my first two. So that's kind of an example of what I'm talking about. So Blake, you look like you have something ready. Who's your give me something that's overrated or underrated? And nobody, if anybody says
all right, we'll stick on the sports. How about if I just say? It
doesn't have to be sports. It can be anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll go with the New York Yankees as overrated.
Oh,
yeah. Without putting this together, I know you said overrated, underrated. Wasn't sure of the context, so scrambling at the last minute. But since we're on the subject of sports, I'm going to say the Yankees because I always hated the Yankees, and one of the reasons they won 27 championships or something like that. But the thing that they always had like one of the highest payrolls. So I think almost all of their championship, they always had the highest payroll, and I thought that gave them an unfair advantage.
Yep.
Because they used to beat up the Twins in the early 2000s, and it would be really irritating. I actually worked at New York Hotel and Casino, and I had a lot of Yankee fans around. They'd be all cheering, trying to rub stuff in people's faces, and I'd be like, "Come on, it's not even fair." Like the Cowboys, maybe in the early 90s, where they also before they had the salary cap in the NFL. I didn't think it was a fair playing field, and so I always thought the Yankees had the advantage. And it wasn't the same as say an underdog winning a championship.
I agree with you, Blake. And that's like in 2001, the Seattle Mariners won 116 games. They traded away Ken Griffey Jr. and won 116 games, the record for most wins in a season. But a couple things happened. They after 9/11, they dropped off, and that they're emotionally they seem to drop off. But at the trading deadline, everybody was in for the Mariners needed one more thing to just win the World Series and going away. A left-handed power hitter. David Justice from the Braves was up, but he had a $3 million salary pickup. The Mariners had a tight budget. They were at their budget limit. The Japanese owners would not go the extra $3 million. So guess who stepped up and paid the $3 million for David Justice? The Yankees did. And guess who won the World Series? The Yankees. Prime example. You're dead right. Yep. You're dead right. All right, Brooks, give us something that you think is overrated or underrated.
Well, I'm going to go with female singers.
Oh,
I have two female singers that are highly overrated. I have no idea why they are as successful as they are. They can't sing. Maybe this singer I'm going to mention can dance, but she's not creative. She can't sing. She has no ability to entertain as far as I'm concerned. And that's Beyonce. She has no talent.
Yep.
And the other female singer is a contemporary, well, not a contemporary, but she's a millennial, cannot sing, can't carry a tune, I have no idea. I've listened to probably 20 of her songs because maybe I'm just missing something. And I listen to them, and they're all crap. And that's Billie Eilish.
Yeah, okay.
Highly overrated. She has no talent. I've heard karaoke singers that can sing way better than her.
Okay. Overrated, underrated. Candace, I'm going to guess you're going to give us something from the film industry, but that's just my wild guess as to something you think is overrated or underrated. So underappreciated or overrated. Go ahead.
I'm glad you gave me some idea because I'm lost in space here.
That's why I did my whole stuff. Yeah, my whole tirade there was just to so you guys would know what kind of thing I was thinking of.
Well, I have a lot of passion, obviously, for what I was a part of for many, many years. But I think one of the things that's really overrated is Netflix. I think that they haven't done a great job with basically they pay for product to be used and then they put it up on their own channel so they make money on both sides. But anybody that thinks that convenience like that has any virtue, and underrated is the little indie film theaters that I used to go to. They're basically disappearing, because it was a business that was run by real people that wanted to do real things about real topics, and they just couldn't make it work. So that's about all I have, because HBO comes to mind as being another one of those I worked with, and I just thought it's a cast of buffoons. I mean, they're just no talent, no thing in their mind other than just flaunting their wealth. And it's another thing to be working on a set that you don't get any consideration. When you hire people to be on the film crews, you expect to be well treated because you're basically the one that's putting everything in front of the screen. And I worked on several indie films over in Seattle, and I'll tell you, they always treated me well. And even if I was working for free, they treated me like $1,000,000, and that was more important to me than any other thing I could have done for 25 years of my life. So
yeah,
that's
the old indie film theaters where you could see little movies that people made that were phenomenal writing. And I'm trying to think of some things, people like John Hurd, actors like John Hurd made a lot of independent movies back in the 80s, and they were just great movies. They're great to sit through for 2 hours. That really is sad. That really is sad. I agree with you, Candace. Thank you. Okay, you've only got a couple. I noticed there's sort of a debate going on here about Joe Namath. Well, there's a lot of people talk about stats these days. And one of the stats that they talk about is yards in football, throwing passes for yards. Yards don't mean shit. Yards are fantasy stats for guys who are fantasy geeks. In the game, they don't matter. You know why? Because you don't get points for yards. And you can throw all kinds of great passes between the 20s and you don't really score any points. Joe Namath, whatever his stats were, had something that a lot of guys didn't have. And he won big games. And he played his biggest in the biggest moments, in spite of his terrible knees and his other things. So that brings me to another one of my overrateds, which is John Elway, who is the worst Super Bowl quarterback of all time. There's a thing called passer rating in the NFL, which the top rating you can get is, I think, 158.9. That means you basically played a perfect game. And anything over 100 is considered a great game. And I will say this about passer rating. A lot of people argue about it. I've never seen a quarterback have what I thought was a great game and have a bad passer rating. And I never saw a quarterback have what I thought was a bad game and have a great passer rating. As an example, Russell Wilson's career Super Bowl passer rating is like 122, which is fantastic. Patrick Mahomes is 78. Patrick Mahomes is also overrated. John Elway's is one of the lowest. He played in 5 Super Bowls. Oh, that makes him a great player. Look, they won the Super Bowl. They finally won because he finally got a good team. No, they won because Mike Shanahan's really smart and gave Terrell Davis the ball 35 times in that game because he knew John Elway was a choke. His passer rating is 58.9, one of the second or third worst of all time in 5 appearances. John Elway choked in the big games. He choked. He was a choker. He's so overrated. He had a gigantic arm. He could throw the ball 1,000 miles an hour. That's about all he could do. He's terrible. So totally overrated. Another overrated, before I give it to Blake and see if he has anything else, the Beatles. The fucking Beatles, other than creating the basic pop song structure from the 1960s forward of intro, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, at outro. Other than creating that, they're terrible. I hate the Beatles. My sister played them incessantly when I was growing up, to the point that I cannot listen to any of their songs. And I can't tell you how insane it makes me when my soccer team, Manchester City, from Manchester, plays, at the end of a game, they play Hey Jude. The Beatles are a fucking Liverpool band. Okay, fuck Liverpool. I'm a Manchester guy. Let's play more Oasis at the end of our games. I just feel like they're so worshipped by that 60s generation, Candace, the hippies, who I can't stand, that I think my basic hatred of the left and the 60s, everything to do with the 60s, just, yeah. The Beatles are overrated. The Beatles are so overrated. The Who are so incredibly underrated. It's like, anyway, so that's
that was raw talent. Roger Daltrey was something else.
Oh, and if you saw them in their heyday in the late 60s to the mid 70s, which I was lucky enough to do because I am that old, you would never experience. Anybody who doubts me, when we're all together in heaven, I'm going to take you to that Who concert in 76 and you're going to understand. Blake, anything else you want to add to your overrated, underrated list before we get out of here?
Since I'm wearing this shirt, I'm gonna have to go with the Dandy Warhols. I think they're underrated, maybe ahead of their time. They just never got quite the recognition or the radio play, but they've had some great albums, a lot of great songs. But I also kind of like the idea that they're not that super popular, because maybe I wouldn't like him as much. And that's a great selection there from I forget, was that Rick or who was that? Yeah, Phil Collins. I would definitely agree with their Laura was saying the Monkees, but the Monkees didn't play their own instruments.
No,
I don't think. I like the show. Yeah,
it was there on the Monkees. Yeah, they're underrated.
I can't believe somebody mentioned T-Rex. What the hell is a hubcap Diamond Star Halo?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
you're
look,
too logical, Brooks.
Hubcap Diamond Star Halo. And the thing is about T-Rex is that, I'm sorry, but Robert Palmer and Duran Duran combined to make Power Station in the 80s, and they did Get It On about 1,000 times better than T-Rex did. I'm sorry, they did. That's a definite. When the definitive version of your song is somebody else's cover of it, like It's My Life by Tomat done by Gwen Stefani. Hey, you're underrated. Go ahead, Blake. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
No, I think that's good. And as Stephanie is saying, the Monkey Show was great. The songs were catchy, but then later you find out that it was all just an act, and none of them actually did anything, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of them played an instrument, but it's amazing how it was just totally Hollywood. So anyway, so I'll stick with that. I did like the Beatles though, but that's another story. So that's it on that one. But I like T-Rex too. They had a couple good songs, glam rock, weird. I don't know what they look like. I've never seen their concerts.
They had 7 albums. 2 songs went on the radio.
Right. Wasn't Mark Bolan their lead singer? Was that Mark Bolan? Didn't he get arrested for child rape in Thailand or something? I think so. The Partridge Family is underrated. Great songwriting and great ballads. It wasn't that bad. I have to admit, their songs were a little catchier, but that's all old stuff from the 60s and stuff. Okay, and I'm going to tell you somebody else who I think is really underrated. It's a band. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are dismissed by people from the 80s. We think they're kind of a joke. I'll tell you what, I got to go to the Ramones 30th anniversary party in the mid 2000s, maybe early 2010s, 2010 in LA. There's some guy named Peter Yorn there. He sucked. There was X from X showed up. They were 80s punks. They sucked. But then the Chili Peppers came out, did about a 7-song set. And and it was a big nightclub across the street from Capitol Records. I forget the name of the theater, but it's a big famous venue. And that place exploded. And I was like, I kind of liked a few of the Chili Peppers songs, but when they came out and played, the whole place exploded. And I was like, wow, I haven't felt that good since I saw the Sex Pistols in 2003 or 1996 for the first time. So yeah, that's good stuff. Mark Bolan was the leader of T-Rex. Man who needs TV when he got T-Rex, Bowie, all the young dudes. Yeah, I think he ended up. It didn't end. I may be mixing it with somebody else.
Was it Mott the Hoople that did
Yeah.
all the young dudes? But it was Bowie's song, I think.
Bowie covered it, and then Bowie covered it. All right. Those are some of just. I think we'll do this again when we have more time to think about it. Overrated and underrated. Don't shoot me, but Kiss is overrated. Overrated?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great bar band. Kiss is a great bar band.
Kiss wrote some of the best hard rock pop songs, especially Paul Stanley, out there. They really did. Rock and Roll All Night is an anthem. I mean,
great show.
It absolutely is.
Fantastic.
And you know what? When I go to a club or a bar where they got a DJ, I always ask him to play "I Was Made for Loving You." And let me just tell you, when you're in a club, that's like an awesome club song. Still, 40 years later. But they're kind of like Kiss. And I don't think Kiss is overrated because I think Kiss gets total disrespect from the rock and roll snooties, the snooty rock and roll people. I don't think they're overrated at all.
I mean, they were the first real big rock show. When you went to a Kiss concert, it was full on everything, lights and pyrotechnics and costumes, and they were all good musicians.
Well, Queen and Bowie and Elton John were doing the glitter rock thing in the early 70s, and then Kiss came along and took it to a whole new level. So I agree with you. It's very good. Wow, the debate about Joe Namath is still going on. Stephanie Lynn Jackson says overrated is Seinfeld. I agree. Curb Your Enthusiasm is underrated. I didn't watch it.
Well, I think the most underrated car is the Cadillac CTS-V.
I'm sorry, what?
The Cadillac CTS-V. I helped launch that car.
Yeah.
640 horsepower in a luxury car, and it will swallow anything else on the road. It is an amazing vehicle.
And one last thing that's underrated before we head out for the evening is the back seat of a 1978 Chevy Camaro as a birth control method. That's vastly underrated because it was. All right. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. I think we can do overrated, underrated. I think we can do that on a repetitive basis.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
I'll say, look, come up with two more. Everybody come up with two more overrated, underrated.
And I was also going to say another that's highly overrated is the Grateful Dead.
Oh, yeah. You hate that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cult. I mean, you've got, people that believe in that don't spend any time outside of being stoned. So, these are the criteria, and they are actually the only peoples that you can monitor that still exist to this day. And they're called the Rainbow People. And they've actually had get-togethers here in Hot Springs. I mean, It's like you stand back and you go, these people still exist, and they're all in their 60s and
listen to Queen.
Well, there's a better bands, I admit it. I'm not saying I'm defending them, but it's definitely the cult aspect of the old, 60s rock bands. And you can think of the Beatles as a cult too. And I just want to make a correction because the Beatles actually played 16 gigs in the greater Manchester area during their career. In fact, one of their songs was based on Albert Square, which is right there at the town hall next to the Oasis Club in Manchester. So they actually did perform there, and they have a legend there. And this conflict between your Manchester group and the other one is because of that, they're warring over who it was that had the origins of the Beatles. And if you go back to the dates, February 2nd, 1962, which is really before they even, became even popular as a band. They were basically a street band, I mean, they'd hire them in a, bar band and people would dance. They were nothing special until their manager got a hold of them, which is really the whole story. And he brought them to this country, and they started doing concerts, and that was all about manipulation, and that had a lot to do with the drug culture. So, you know.
Yeah, it sure did. I've been to some great Elton John concerts, and I've watched some terrible ones. All I can say is don't watch anything from the last 10 or 15 years. There are some old Elton John concerts from before his voice went, from the 70s, like that are on him live at Hammersmith Odeon and stuff at Christmas that are on, that are great, that will show you how talented he was. And also Elton at 60 for Madison Square Garden. If you can put up with the shots of Bill Clinton in the audience and Hillary,
I saw him live in 76. I saw him live in 76, and he was amazing.
Yeah, he was then. Oh. And Bowie sang backup to Mott the Hoople on that track. There we go. Okay. All right, so that's gonna. Cruise is overrated. Tom
Gremlin.
Gremlin, though, yeah. Yeah, maybe there's movie directors that we could talk about that are so overrated that we can get it. But that's something we can do next time when we do overrated, underrated. So overrated, underrated is going to be a repeating thing. Not every week. Like I think next week I want people to do their homework. I want you to come with at least 2 or 3 of your favorite YouTube or Rumble channels that are out there. All right, I already know what one of mine is.
I'm banned from YouTube for life, so I'm never going to mention anything on YouTube other than the Harley Davidson DIY channel.
Yeah, there you go. Stephanie Lynn Jackson, you need a spanking. Manchester City is not overrated at all. Manchester City is God's gift to soccer.
Look, I gotta go there. I've never been there. Next time you go.
Well, I mean, I want to. Yeah, I would like to go back. I was supposed to go back this spring, but some things fell to film some stuff, but things fell apart. I have somebody there, that I like. There's people there. I feel drawn to the city. I must have lived there in a previous life or something. It's a lot like Seattle in a lot of ways, only better in every way. Because first of all, they have city and they have oasis. I mean, come on. So yeah, it's really interesting. And that's another thing. If I had $200 million. I'm going to open a sports bar in Manchester, and it's going to be a Manchester City and Seattle Seahawks sports bar showing all of their games. And because City's colors are light blue, sky blue, and the Seahawks colors are dark blue, the name of the bar is going to be called Blue Balls. God shot down my dream of opening Blue Balls in Manchester. All right. Love you guys. We're out of here. Candace, thank you. Blake, thank you. Brooks, thank you. We'll see you guys next week. Next week, it's YouTube channels or just channels in general we want people to pay attention to. All right. Love you guys. Have a good one. Let's hope we're
blessings. Everybody pray to God for some change here.
Yeah, because an NBA player just got fined $40,000 for saying no homo. That he said he really loved his teammate, no homo, and the NBA fined him $40,000.
Wow.
All right. Love you guys. See you next week. Bye.